There is a cruel paradox that governs the laws of human attraction, a contradiction that few understand, but everyone experiences. It is the paradox of scarcity, the relentless irony that the more you pursue something, the more unattainable it becomes. The more you try to be desired, the less desirable you become. It is an inverted equation that defies our most basic intuition, but which operates with the precision of a natural law. Think about it for a moment. When was the last time you saw someone desperately trying to be accepted, admired, desired, and succeeding? When was the last time you witnessed someone obsessively pursuing another person's attention and being rewarded with genuine interest? The answer is probably never. And it's no accident. It's because there's a deep psychological mechanism operating in the shadows of human interaction, a mechanism that turns pursuit into repulsion, need into rejection. Today, we're going to dissect this paradox. We're going to dive deep into the psychology of scarcity and abundance. We're going to understand why desperately seeking external validation is the surest path to invisibility. And most importantly, we're going to figure out how to turn this equation around. How to stop trying to be desired and start, finally, being naturally desirable. To fully understand this paradox, we must first acknowledge a fundamental truth. Human desire is driven by scarcity, not abundance. We value what is rare, what is hard to obtain, what not everyone can have. It's deep evolutionary programming. From limited resources in nature to complex human relationships, what is easily accessible loses value. What is always available, always present, always begging to be noticed, becomes invisible. Not because it has no intrinsic value, but because the perception of value is drastically reduced by excessive availability. When you put yourself in the position of a pursuer, of someone who constantly seeks approval, attention, validation, you are communicating a powerful message to the world. I am not worthy enough on my own. I need your attention to feel complete. And paradoxically, this message, this energy of neediness, repels the very thing you seek to attract. It's like trying to hold water with your hands too tight. The tighter you squeeze, the more the water escapes through your fingers. Let's examine how this paradox manifests itself in specific behaviors. The first and most obvious is excessive availability. When you're always available, always responding immediately, always prioritizing others over your own interests and needs, you're not demonstrating dedication. You're demonstrating desperation. You're communicating that you have nothing more valuable in your life, nothing that competes for your attention and time. And ironically, this makes your attention and time feel less valuable. The second behavior is the constant search for validation. Repeatedly asking if everything is okay, if the person likes you, if you did something wrong, if they are happy with you. This behavior does not show consideration, it shows insecurity. And few things are as repellent as chronic insecurity. The desperate need for external confirmation creates a vicious cycle. The more you seek validation, the less attractive you become, which leads you to seek even more validation. The third behavior is disproportionate investment. When you overinvest in someone who has invested minimally in you, whether it's time, emotional energy, resources, attention, you are communicating that your value is less. You are setting up an imbalanced dynamic where you are worth less and the other person is worth more. And again, paradoxically, this causes the other person to believe this assessment. If you treat yourself as someone of lesser value, why would others disagree? The fourth behavior is a lack of boundaries. When you allow others to treat you any way they want, when you don't set consequences for unacceptable behavior, when you're willing to tolerate anything to maintain connection, you're not demonstrating understanding or patience. You're demonstrating a lack of self-respect. And without self-respect, external respect is impossible. The fifth behavior, and perhaps the most insidious, is constant performance. When you're always trying to impress, always trying to be what you think others want you to be, always adjusting your personality, opinions, and behavior to please, you're not being authentic. You're being a character. And no matter how convincing your performance, there's something about inauthenticity that people instinctively sense. Something that creates distrust, discomfort, and eventually disinterest. Now, you might be wondering, if all of these behaviors, which seem intuitively correct for attracting interest and connection, actually repel, then what actually works? The answer lies in completely reversing the equation. Instead of trying to be desired, You need to make yourself desirable. And that starts with a fundamental shift in mindset. The first necessary transformation is from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. Scarcity says, there are few opportunities. I must seize this one at any cost. Abundance says, the world is full of possibilities. I can be selective. Scarcity says, if this person doesn't value me, no one else will. Abundance says, if this person doesn't recognize my value, others will. This shift in perspective completely changes your energy, your posture, your presence in the world. The second transformation is from external to internal value. When your sense of worth depends on the validation of others, you are at the mercy of fluctuating opinions, fleeting moods, and distorted perceptions. You become a boat without an anchor, tossed about by the waves of others' approval or disapproval. But when your worth is anchored internally, in your principles, your purpose, your integrity, your commitment to your own growth, you become unshakable. And paradoxically, this internal solidity is deeply attractive. The third transformation is from being other-oriented to being self-oriented. This does not mean becoming selfish or insensitive. It means recognizing that you cannot give what you do not have. You cannot offer what you have not cultivated within yourself. It means understanding that the best way to serve others, to contribute, to connect, is to first become the best version of yourself. It means investing in your growth, in your passions, in your physical and mental health, in your evolution as a human being. The fourth transformation is from reactivity to proactivity. When you are reactive, you are always responding to your environment, always adjusting to external expectations, always in response mode. When you are proactive, you are creating your environment, setting your own expectations, operating from a clear vision of who you are and where you want to go. Reactivity is weak. Proactivity is powerful. An authentic power, not power over others, but power over yourself, is irresistibly attractive. The fifth, and perhaps most profound, shift is from need to choice. When you interact with others from a place of need, whether for validation, for connection, for safety, you are operating from a place of lack. When you interact from a place of choice, because you want to, not because you need to, you are operating from a place of abundance. And this subtle shift changes everything. Need suffocates, choice liberates. Need repels, choice attracts. Let's now translate these transformations into practical strategies, into concrete actions that you can implement immediately to invert the desirability equation. First strategy, cultivate healthy scarcity. This means making your time, attention, and energy valuable and limited resources. Don't be always available. Don't respond immediately to every message. Don't cancel your commitments to accommodate others. Don't make others your priority when you are only an option to them. This isn't about playing games or manipulating. It's about genuinely valuing your most precious resources and allocating them wisely. Second strategy, develop internal sources of validation. Set your own standards of excellence and live by them. Celebrate your victories, even the small ones. Acknowledge your own growth. Practice self-compassion when you fail. Build a healthy relationship with yourself where you are simultaneously your most demanding mentor and your most understanding friend. When you become your primary source of validation, external validation becomes a pleasant bonus, not a desperate necessity. Strategy 3. Invest disproportionately in yourself. Devote time, energy, and resources to your growth, your skills, your passions. Become exceptionally good at something you value. Cultivate a healthy body, a sharp mind, a resilient spirit. Build a life that is intrinsically satisfying, regardless of who is or isn't in it. Paradoxically, the more complete and fulfilling your life is in and of itself, the more people will want to be a part of it. Strategy 4. Set clear boundaries and consistent consequences. Decide how you want to be treated and don't accept anything less. Communicate your boundaries calmly and firmly. When those boundaries are violated, implement consequences, not as punishment, but as a way to protect your well-being and dignity. Remember, you teach others how to treat you. And when you treat yourself with respect, others will follow suit. Strategy 5. Practice radical authenticity. Stop trying to be what you think others want you to be. Stop hiding your opinions, your tastes, your quirks for fear of judgment. Embrace your uniqueness, your edges, even your contradictions. Authenticity is magnetic because it is rare. In a world of carefully curated performances, the raw truth stands out. And paradoxically, the more authentically you express yourself, the more attractive you become to those who truly resonate with who you are. Now, it's important to recognize that this transformation, from someone desperately trying to be desired to someone naturally desirable, doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey, not a destination. There will be setbacks, moments of weakness, old patterns resurfacing. That's normal. That's human. It's not about perfection. It's about direction. Every time you choose self-respect over external approval, every time you invest in yourself instead of chasing validation, every time you set a healthy boundary, you are rewriting your value in the world. And here's the most fascinating aspect of this paradox. When you finally stop trying to be desired, when you genuinely no longer need the approval or attention of others to feel complete, when you are truly satisfied with who you are and the life you have built, that is exactly the moment when you become irresistibly attractive. Not to everyone, certainly, but to those who resonate with your frequency, with your energy, with your authenticity. To those who are attracted not by what you do for them, but by who you are in yourself. And those are the only things that really matter. Because genuine connection, mutual respect, authentic attraction, these things can't be chased, manipulated, or forced. They can only be cultivated, attracted, allowed. They are the natural result of two people recognizing each other's value, choosing each other not out of necessity, but out of genuine admiration. The ultimate paradox, the supreme irony, is this: when you don't need to be desired, that's when you become truly desirable. When you don't seek approval, that's when you receive admiration. When you don't chase, that's when you attract. It's surrender that conquers, detachment that connects, self-sufficiency that magnetizes. The choice is now yours. To continue the cycle of pursuit and rejection, of need and repulsion, or to take the leap into self-sufficiency, into inner worth, into conscious choice. To stop trying to be desired. To start being naturally desirable. Not as a tactic, a strategy, or a manipulation, but as an authentic expression of who you really are, who you are becoming. The paradox of scarcity is not a sentence, it is an opportunity. A chance to completely transform your relationship with yourself and, consequently, with others. A chance to discover that what you were so desperately seeking out there was, all along, waiting to be awakened within you. True desirability is not something you pursue, it is something you embody. And when you finally understand this, when you internalize this truth not just intellectually but viscerally, that is when the paradox is resolved, the equation is reversed, and you become not the pursuer but the magnet, not the seeker but the attractor, not the needer but the chooser. And in that reversal lies the freedom you have always sought, the freedom to be fully yourself, the freedom to connect authentically, the freedom, finally, to be valued not for what you do, but for who you are.